Testing. One, two, three. Testing. One, two, three. And we'll check the chat. Good. So we start with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, glory, yours now and forever. In your Son, our Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Right? You get this guy off my back. Come on, take your bone. First, I'm going to be reading from Matthew 13:47. This is the parable of the dragnet. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet which was cast into the sea and gathered some of every kind, which when it was full, they drew to shore. They sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but threw away the bad away. Okay, so it will be at the end of an age. Angels will come forth, separate the wicked from among the just, and cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing, gnashing of teeth. Jesus said to them, have you understood all these things? They said to him, yes, Lord. I've seen that. I've seen, well, I died. You're on this like light beam rope, whatever it is. You can see below you everybody, creatures and people falling into this pit, being ripped to pieces. And yes, that's exactly what I saw. Um, the only thing I did not see, because you can only see this pit that they're falling into. I didn't see the fire. I have no idea what's there. The only thing that I know is that it's not good. No human being should be no. Okay, so there's a lot going on, and I have to address this. I have to address this. On January 20th, 2020, I told you. Now, I'm not saying that the person that's there is not being a puppet. The strings are not being pulled. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Trump is no longer the president. That's what I've always said. Why? The ROEs were changed. Okay. That's the rules of engagement. Literally. Now, the other thing was they had a whole bunch of stuff for Biden to sign, and he did. And you see the result of that. More so, everybody's saying, oh, this whole Ukraine thing is Trump and Putin. This is what Dave says from X22. Trump and Putin doing all this stuff against the deep state and blah, blah. Right. Okay. No. They're shooting and marking these people up, the Russians are, as Nazis. They're branding them, whatever. There's been proof of this by third party satellite feeds. Another proof of this was the two missiles that hit the train station, killed hundreds. Okay. We're not talking killing military, we're talking killing civilians, children, people. Okay. They haven't even figured out the carnage yet. And the other atrocities. Okay. The RIPE, I have to say it that way. Oh, all the other stuff. Okay. The reality is we haven't seen this since the World War II. Where do we see it? We saw it from the November Alpha Zebra, Indiana Sierra. Why? Because that's who has been running this from day one, from all the way back to the end of World War II. Okay. And so everybody's saying, oh, no. Okay. No. Do they want World War III? Yeah, they want it. Do they, what do they want with World War III? Very simple. Very simple. They don't miss a beat in cash. Bring this country to its knees, destroy the Bill of Rights, let all these millions and millions and millions of people, the Democrats keep saying, they've said it for 30 years, that the illegal population is 30 million. Yeah. Try 100. Okay. Try 100. What does that do? Keeps wages down, keeps problems, increases crime, all the things that they want to use to destroy everything, right? So that you don't own anything. This is exactly what, if you look back to 1905, this is exactly what the Marxists did to Russia. If you look back to the Chinese, that's exactly what they did to them. And what results is millions and millions and millions of people dying. They don't own anything. I don't care. Have no, I've been too busy fighting, to be honest with you. What have I been doing all week? You ready? Fighting a cyber war. Fighting a cyber war with my servers, replacing burnt out SSDs. SSDs are solid state drives. They only have, because of the way they're physically made, where they push electrons above this gate, and there's an insulator. And as you push more electrons back and forth, as you use it, you have to push more. Okay. What happens is that insulator breaks down over time. So all SSDs have a limited amount of data that they can write and read. All right. And it's usually around 1 to 2 petaflops. By these people basically doing what's called the denial of service attack on routers and servers and things like this, they're causing these SSDs to wear out prematurely. Okay, I can get into the terms. We try to block everything, but in order to have a functional server that's going to be working on the internet, it has to be exposed and things. And this is part of the problem. It's getting to the point where it's bad. So yeah. Then you have all the militaries on incredible alert. You have basically um, China who's standing by and going to. There's no offense buts. They're gonna go into Taiwan before the midterm elections. They have to do it. Okay, this is part of what they want to do. The Democrats have sought to dispense with Biden And I don't know what they're planning, but it doesn't matter because this is what it is. Everybody's like Trump, 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 Trump. I'm not against Trump, but you can't deny reality. Unlike these woke people who want to talk about 38 official sexes, I look at reality. And the reality is that there is Trump derangement syndrome. There is two standards. There's one standard for the Democrats. I mean, look at Hunter Biden. Look at the look at everything that's going on. Change it and instead put um, Trump's son. It would be every single news outlet 24/7. I mean, do you think if you did this, if you had that material, that you would not be arrested 3 years ago? Okay. Now everybody's talking about Jackson and that whole celebration today. And I tell you that the Democrats are the most racist and insulting racist, and they are real racist on the planet. You're like, what? She's the first black African American woman. Blah, blah. Yes, and she's been selected by that criteria, essentially wiping out any of her accomplishments. Everybody's now going to look at her, and this is what they want. And the only reason why she's there is because she's a African American woman. That's it. Now, do I agree with her politics? Do I agree with her things? No. But you can't deny the accomplishments she's made, but they're now ignored. They've been now she was picked out of a lineup of men and women and everything else. Say 14 people. Believe me, they have at least 14 judges with the philosophy that they want. Then it would be a fair thing, and then her not so much her whatever she got to that point would be um raised up more. Okay, but it's not. It's been wiped out. That was done on purpose. That's a subliminal message to the blacks. You need us. You need our help. Without us, you're doomed. I would be so pissed off. It's a tremendous insult from the. I mean, because I've been there. All right, I've seen all the. I mean, I had it myself. I've had it myself with all the things that I went through in my life, and my friends would no longer play with me because I had black friends. But the reality was they weren't really my friends, were they? Because we all have the same red blood, all of us. All of us can be assholes. All of us can be great people. You cannot judge anything or anybody on whatever they look like, whatever on the surface. You can't do it. You have to get to know the heart and the soul of that person to see exactly where they're coming from. And only then will you realize that, wow, this person has a lot to offer. I'm very glad that that person's in my life. That's what it means. Um, and Paul S writes about the Queen did the good. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. You guys would know more about that. Like I said, I've been really looking at what information I can give you. So I have people that I know in Russia. I have people that well, that my friend, my son really knows. Okay. We're talking about, soldiers and people like that. My youngest son. And none of none of the weapons, nothing has been getting. Everything Biden's been telling you is a lie. Biden does not want Ukraine to win, which would help us immensely with Russia. It would help us immensely with China. Basically, by having Ukraine win, it would stop the invasion of Taiwan. But right now, we have a golden opportunity. We have an opportunity to continue to build up Taiwan. Okay. We have an opportunity to have a lot of our ships make port in Taiwan and go on liberty, but secretly be on extreme high alert. All those destroyers, and we have a lot of them, they have Aegis systems. Okay. Um, they have systems on those ships that can shoot down satellites. They can shoot down just about anything. They cannot shoot down a hypersonic missile. They can't do it. But they have other systems that can deal with that. Is Biden going to do this? No, because whoever is controlling Biden, the Charlie Paul people, that's not what they want. They're the same people who were controlling Obama because look what happened. Basically, everybody talks about we have a carrier superiority and everything else. Well, they did one better. Basically, they artificially constructed islands in those regions. And those artificially constructed islands are so built up, it's like having two carriers on each island, if not more. Okay. And they're all land based systems, they have huge runways. So they really, really can extend a tremendous amount of power in a moment's notice. This has been going on since really 2009, 10. The other thing is that, as I told you last week, it's official. We're out of the petrodollar, which means nobody has to buy dollars in order to purchase oil. That means all those dollars that they used to have to keep on hand, they're all coming back. They're all being exchanged, ready for the incredible destruction of the dollar. What's that going to mean? It's going to mean anybody who, say, you have $1 million, it's going to be worth about $240,000 in real assets. So if you planned on your retirement or anything like that, it's going to also create a tremendous worldwide recession, if not depression in Europe, if not depression here, or at least a recession with stagflation. Yeah, yeah. Well, th- they're basically, that's what I'm saying. They're the other, that group that's working for the Putin factor, that special group. Their modus operandi and their operation and the way they do things is not different than the Sam outfit of World War II for Hitler. This everything he says about taxes that Biden says, and is a lie. Okay, because the reality is that by creating 25 to 40% of, I don't think it's going to be 40%, 40% inflation means it's a tax. It's a hidden it's the worst tax in the world because it's basically ripping you off wholesale. Now, who makes out on this? Well, the elites who went into massive debt. And if you look at their sheets, they went into massive debt basically 2 years ago. So they knew this was coming. They knew this was coming. And what they did was they leveraged all that debt with $0 and very, very cheap loans. And now they're going to be paying those things. They're waiting for this inflation to really hit hard because then they're going to pay off their stuff at 20 cents on the dollar, which means they're going to be buying something that's worth, an example, $1 million with borrowed money, but they're going to be paying it off with dollars that are worth one quarter of that. And they're going to get paid as a tax deduction to even do that too, which means they're going to do it and they're not going to pay taxes on doing it. So this whole thing where they tell you, oh, the rich are going to pay their fair share of taxes, it's just a scam. It's a soundbite. They never pay. Yeah, you gotta Jim Foreman change that, edit that zebra, take that out of there, put a dollar sign in it. the that of you talking about was started back in 2014. You'll notice that this president was not president back then. That's why there was a whole impeachment thing with the conversation with Trump and everything else. Um, I put it to you that this guy is in a lot of respects he's not what the people thought. He's really above and beyond, but it doesn't matter. The Ukraine for years has been this battleground for a very good reason. Because if you look at the geography, Russia needs all those ports. They need to have access to the Black Sea. It's part of their whole thing. By um, taking over just Crimea, what happened was that river and that water supply to them was cut off by the Ukrainians. That's why this whole thing was just, and I did a video on my Patreon about this. That's why it was all really foretold, okay, that it was definitely going to happen. And Putin himself has said that he wants to get back basically his Iron Curtain. Um, you have to say to yourself that these specific designations that Russia has right now was really given to the USSR. If you really go back to the UN Charter, it was given to USSR. It wasn't given to Russia specifically. The USSR was dissolved, so they don't even belong on this thing. And this is all really, you could say this whole situation now and everything, uh, Russia, China, everything, it's really Bush 41. Okay, it's Bush 41. It's Nixon. These are the people who made this happen. Um, at the end, when Reagan finished off, and you had basically the USSR dissolving, and the wall came down, and everything else, there was a golden opportunity to join on the hip with Russia and go to setting up a base on the moon, a base on Mars, a big, huge, like 2001 Space Odyssey movie, space station with a lot of things, and get Type 1 technologies, the Holy Grail, and then share that. And we would have been in a phenomenal position. But of course, the people who are really pulling the strings, who own that whole thing, they didn't want that. That's not what they want. Um, Musk, Jim says Musk and Twitter. Musk is. I don't agree with everything he has, but I understand. I understand everything he does, and there's a reason why he went into the electric car business, and the reason why was because the government was paying $15,000 per car. That was free. That he was like, that's free money, guys. We're gonna go get this. That's that's basically it. Okay, and he saw an area that was basically untapped. Um, the next thing is, I mean, he's basically into high end technology, robotics, artificial intelligence. I mean, because he sees that's where the next real competition is going to be in AI. um, and then he was looking at the user base of Twitter, the technology that they have, the software that they have, and then he did his cost benefit analysis, and he's like, it's cheaper for me to buy them. I mean, here's a guy who literally has on the books, and you have to say that's on the books. I would say it's probably 500 billion in real assets that he has, and I don't care what the books say, but you got to know he's got other stuff. So he's saying to himself, I can buy this and I can secretly, accumulate more and I can drive these other bad entities out. Why not? Well, at least when I try, it's nothing for him. It's absolutely nothing. This is like you and me going and spending, $5,000. Just saying. Jim Foreman. I don't know. I know his wife is not for him running again. I look to DeSantis. I look to um, there's other people. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the Democrats have, and they they did this on with their propaganda, with the media machine, and everything else. They turned him into a lightning rod, and they did it on purpose because they saw the changes and they saw that he could end everything that they had planned. So you have to attack, attack, attack. That's like I said, the guy couldn't take a pee in his toilet without it being wrong. Unlike Joe Biden makes mistakes. He made a mistake. It's just insane. He makes mistakes all the time. And they looked away. It's okay. Well, well, it's whatever. I mean, it's just like they're all about these masks and all the stuff, and they're all about the social thing, and Trump was a tremendous COVID blast, the bad guy, and blah 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 and blah. Well, he put speed into it. He got all the vaccines, but more than that, they're telling you have to wear a mask on an airline. You have to do this. You have to do that. But then when Pelosi kisses Biden and she tests positive for COVID, the CDC says it's okay. She wasn't in proximity to him for 15 minutes. I think this Omicron variant has an R8 value. Okay, which means if she had even an inkling of this virus and she's kissing him, the vaccine and the boosters and everything else. We've seen this because everybody who's had these vaccines and boosters and everything else have gotten the disease. Okay, so it's not a it's not a protection. Okay, despite what they say, it's a fact. People who have had all these shots have gotten the disease. It's they say, well, they didn't get in the hospital, and I know people who've been in the hospital who've been vaccinated who had the shots and who were really sick. Know that too. Um, so then you can't say that either. Then they're saying, well, she has to wear a mask. Um, this is a virus that's only 302 nanometers. Okay. The mask is not going to stop. Mask is for bacteria, which is a lot larger. And I want to see the white papers that prove this. So then you have to say, you have to get back to it's rules for thee, not rules for that. Basically that's what it really is. And you see this. You see this I see this. I go into Stony Brook all the time and I see people outside wearing masks. People who are going to Stony Brook University who are obviously intellectually people. Um, I've been on the radio station there. I've never lectured there, but I did lecture at New York Institute. Um, and for the life of me, I can't understand where their brain went, where they can't understand the difference between millions of a meter and billions of a meter. Okay, billions, nanometers, billions. Really, 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 really small. Okay, you need an electron microscope to see stuff like this. Okay, you can't see it with a regular microscope. So that's how is your mask? Where if it's not a powered filter down to zero point zero 0.02 microns going to do this, it can't. It's not possible. That's the science. That's physical science of reality. Which means then why are they telling you to wear this? That's a good question. Because it's not helping you. It's not helping anybody outside if you have the disease. Okay, not gonna no. Well, it will not matter. Okay, it will matter if you run it if you wear a full PPE gear that's in a CDC 4 level lab, which is a full suit, which is yeah, it's a whole thing. Yes, will that protect you? Uh huh. And that's why they have to wear that. If and they have a whole special room that they go through, and they don all the stuff, and they have another special room that they go through, and it sprays them with chemicals and everything else, and those outfits only worn one. I mean, it's a whole big thing. Look it up. It's a fact. So you have to say to yourself, it's a badge of compliance and obedience, and it's part of the propaganda, and it's part of the imagery that they want you to see. It's part of the fear. They work very well with fear. Fear is their commerce. Exactly. Sharon Riley writes "Control the Masses," and that's how they do it with fear. And I said to you, and I've said to you on many occasions, you have to learn how to die before you can truly live, because you can't live in fear. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't prepare. That doesn't mean that you don't prepare for famine. That doesn't mean that you don't prepare for things that you see that are coming. That doesn't prepare. That doesn't. That if you see that there's a hurricane and a storm coming, you either get out if you're in the low-lying area, whatever, or you prepare your home. You board it up for that type of storm. These are common sense things. This is what God wants you to do. Did he not tell his people to prepare for the plagues that were going to come to Egypt? Answer: He did. He did. That's why they had water put away in jars. That's why they were prepared for the whole thing that happened and Passover and everything else. They were prepared. And I'm telling you, with the signs of everything that's going on, for you to prepare, for you to get extra commodities, for you to buy tuna fish specifically, for you to buy beans specifically, canned items, for you to buy extra water. Buy as much as you can possibly store. At worst, you're just going to use it. And it's going to be cheaper if you buy it now than in the future. But if I'm right, and you won't be able to get it, it's going to be good number one, it's going to be a real value, which means you'll be able to barter it for something that somebody else has that you don't have. Okay, that's number one. So that's a true currency. This this is not going to have the value that you think it's going to have. Okay, this only works if there is still specific exchange of commerce. You can't eat this. You can't drink it. You can't use it to fill up your car. Okay, it has absolutely no none of, and yeah. So you no. So you're gonna find out that things of commodities and per se that people use and you use is a good investment now while you can still get them and while they're reasonably inexpensive. They're going to be more expensive. Everything is going to be more expensive because the gas prices are going to continue to climb. They're going to go up. As they go up, they're 23% factor in everything. Everything has an energy cost. Some more percentage, but the minimum is 23%. Okay. We were sold out, get ready. No, I set up a community center on my Odyssey page. Okay. Odyssey.com, Bull Omni. And I pay for that. And the reason why I set it up there is because they can't take it down. It's blockchain. All right. And it's free to you. It's not free to me, but it's free to you. And it allows you to speak your mind, communicate with each other without the interruption of a big high tech entity saying no more because it's blockchain. As far as uh, this this other guy, um, vigilant. The lights are going to go out in different specific places at different specific times, and part of it is going to be on purpose. And part of it is not going to be controlled by them. If an EMP is launched by our enemies, that's going to be really bad. Okay, and don't say that it can't happen because it might happen. If a CME from the sun goes, which there was one that went off on the opposite side of the sun that was absolutely insanely huge. It was, um, I think they said it was 10,000 times larger than the sun when it went off. It was incredible. It was so big that it actually created a CME that went towards us. It was it that that would be so bad if it hit the earth that there really wouldn't be anything that would be unaffected. um, Nothing of any technology would ever work. We'd be set back to I mean, literally the 1700s. Yeah, I mean, raids on those kind of museums would be would be would be done. I will put it to you that you should memorize where all those places actually are because they do have functioning technology that would work after something like that. I don't know how you're going to get there. Um, the only thing is that you'd have a specific period of time before you get there that you would know if it was coming from the sun. You're not going to have that kind of time with an EMP. An EMP will just be a flash of light, and that's it. Um, there will be no warning. And don't put it past these people to do this, especially with the desperation they're getting to. So this is how they work. I've been in the doghouse on Facebook, so I was recently going there and looking, but it's just not worth my time if they're just going to keep continue to censor me and everything else. It's I mean they're already doing that on YouTube. I'm totally demonetized, and as you've seen in the past, they are going over everything that I'm saying with a fine tooth comb. I just need about um, 70 something followers on Odyssey before I can do a live broadcast on that. And there will not be censored. So I can have you guys write me or call in or any and I'll answer anything. I don't it won't you know, I mean, within Valley, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not gonna be cursing up a storm or cursing every other word. Um, no. And I'll never take the Lord's name in vain. Remember, um, FUCK is not, that stands for unlawful carnal knowledge. Okay, so that's not really a curse word. Um, yeah, taking the Lord's name in vain is very bad. Jim Foreman, what are you asking? What's the clip on your page? Um, yeah. So if you go to Odyssey and type in "ball on me," you'll see my mug. All the videos that they've deleted on YouTube and others that I could never post here, um, with which were only exclusive on my Patreon. I made them on. I put them on Odyssey, so you can see that. But remember, ultimately, because um, Putin's using the church, the Orthodox Church, to push his agenda. Okay, specifically in his country, and a lot of the people are not getting. They're getting a totally different thing. But one thing that is coming through on the scuttlebutt: mothers of these soldiers that are being killed and are being left and not even being brought home. They they're not remaining silent. They lost their child, and a lot of these children, well, I consider them children, were conscripts, which means they were forced right out of high school to join. They had no choice. Um, so I feel very badly for those. I feel badly for all those who are dying on both sides of the fence because, I mean, if people only knew and only recognized and only saw the real enemies of humanity. I'm going to touch on something you need to know. Okay. They're finally releasing it. And I've said this on occasion. I told you. How many times did I tell you it doesn't require 8 trucks, some 300 men, 3 DC-3s, and 2 hangars to retrieve a balloon, a weather balloon with stuff on it that was launched by 2 guys in a Jeep? It's coming out. All these facts are coming out that actually aliens are real, abductions are real, close encounters are real, pregnancies from these things are real. What they've done to us is real. Yeah, it came out. Is the media really talking about it? I mean, you see a little bit on Fox News and everything else, but the papers are being released. 15,000 papers and 15,000 show photos of unbelievable things that were told, it's a gas, it's a this, it's a no, they lied. It's not. It's aliens. Yeah. So, um, hello. Uh, you and I have red blood, and yeah, okay. So you are different language and different whatever. These guys are really different, and they don't have our best interest involved here. Yeah, you know, there might be good aliens out there, but these ones are right here, they're not too good. No, you think? Question on the subject. Utah home loan. Go ahead, shoot. What's the question? I knew this eons ago. Okay. My father told me his incident on his deathbed. Why on his deathbed? He was ordered to keep it secret all the years of my life. How a spacecraft from Roswell appears to be a data craft that seems to have the alien tag on. Um, I don't know which photograph you're talking about. I can tell you this: the same exact spacecraft, and I'm going to call them spacecraft, that were sighted and chased by at that time a commander who retired as a captain, who was in charge of a Nimitz. This was back in 2003 F-18 Super Hornet squadron. He locked up and followed this thing, and this thing moved again at over 5,000 plus, like that. Okay, and he described it as a tic tac. He's got footage of it. You've probably seen this HUD footage of this so-called Tic Tac. This is exactly what my father described to me of the three UFOs that he chased with his squadron in 1956, and it's documented. You can look it up. Okay, it you can look it up. There's a book written about it. In 1956, they chased them. Three of them, my father had three of them. Um, they were all moving at over 900 knots, and like my father said, I felt that I was the coyote and they were the roadrunners, and like beep beep, and they poof. They all made 90-degree turns. One went to the right, one went to the left, one went vertical, and they went at, my father said, at plus 5,000 miles. That's what his radar was calibrated to. He wouldn't say. He said he knew it was faster than that. Couldn't say how fast it was. He knew it was faster than that. I said to him, I said, "Dad, was it aliens?" And he says to me, "Well, it wasn't Russians. It wasn't Ruskies." Yeah. So he knew. And guess what? They told his squadron to go to this other base where he was told for 3 days and nights, and you didn't see what you saw, blah 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 blah. Yeah. You telling my old man who was in combat for 2.5 years, two tours? No. Okay. He said, "Look, you're not gonna do this to me. Okay. Get an '05 or better in here and give me an order and a signed thing, and that's it. Give me an order. Don't tell me that I didn't see what I saw. My men didn't see what they. I know what I saw." So they sent in a captain, and he told them, "You're not to talk about this, or say it or repeat it ever again." Blah 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 blah. So fine. Oh, by the way, the people who were telling him this was a Mr. Brown and Mr. White. Yeah. um, I had a Sierra Alpha Paul clearance when I worked for the Delta Oscar Delta, and then when I was working for them a total of 14 years, and I worked for Delta Alpha Romeo Paul Alpha for 7 years. um, the the clearance that I had, I can't speak of that. The clearance that I had was compartmentalized. So you worked on a specific thing, you were part of a project. Um, you later on learned what the project was on the whole. If it wasn't for Congressman Jack Buechner being friends with President Reagan, um, I owe his. He died last year. Um, I owe his. He basically saved me. So from these people who were essentially the same thing. The November Alpha, Zebra, Indiana, Sierra. They're in our government too. They're all over the world. And even though I was told that what I was working on was going to save millions of people, it was later on used to kill. That's not why. But I should have known better. I had the so-called voice on my shoulder telling me, but I wanted that pat on the back. I wanted that accolade. So, nope, I have never forgiven myself. Even though I know that God forgives me. I will never do that again ever. He knows that. That's why he restored me, because I'll never do that again. Sorry. Can't help how you feel, good faith. It's those feelings that stop you from making those same mistakes. He knows I will never, never, I'll never do that again. I was proud doing things for this country that I thought were going to save people in cities and millions of lives. I'm going to have to answer for it anyway. So I just, I pray I can. somehow invent and perfect this photon computer, basically based on similar technology to benefit man. I know God loves me. Like I said, He restored me fully. Um, my blackjack game has never been. It's never even been a fraction what it is now. Um, things are very easy, and it's all His doing. Max, need some love, Max. Yeah, do you ever think Hillary will have the justice that she deserves? We got footage to people who saw in, incredible evil acts. Okay, incredible, and no offense or buts. No offense or buts. It was her. No offense or buts. It was not fake. What is that demon doing? She's done, Joe. Is Hunter in jail? Nope. You think the people who arranged, which are the same people, for Rich, other crimes that they've done, will they ever pay? Eventually, you and I all know where they're going, but that's not the point. Here on this earth, there's two justice systems. There's one system for us, and there's another for them. And they set it up this way, and they're continuing to perpetuate it that way. I mean, do you think if I was caught in the city, now I don't have a license to carry in New York City, don't have one, but I do have a license here. I have a state license. But if I was caught in the city, they wouldn't throw the book away. No, no, they'd come and get everything I have, everything. Yeah, they would just look at that as an excuse. Yeah, but yet the first thing they toss is when an MS-13 person is caught with weapons. First thing they throw away is the gun charges. Everything. These people are out of jail before the officers can finish the paperwork, and the paperwork is done on computer, so that's pretty sad. Well, I agree with everything that is put. Tighten up. I'm tight. You're saying I'm fat. I'm trying to deal with it. I mean, I really am. Unfortunately, um, I fell and I had an injury, and I'm trying to get over that, and it's been slowing me down. And then all this insanity has been going on because my responsibilities to these systems is paramount, and I'm only one person, and they're the only systems that have not been compromised. And I meet everybody in the medical centers around my wife's office, other places, even other people, banks. Wells Fargo was hit. Sloan Kettering was hit. Long Island Jewish was it? Long Island Jewish paid $2.5 million to these idiots, and they're idiots for paying that. They're just perpetuate the crime, and really, it's the crime of the IT person who's running the show. Because if they haven't set up a system like that to be on an instantaneous mirror, okay, you're you're incompetent. My wife's law office is on a mirror. Okay, there's actually one, there's actually three mirrors. There's two physical servers, and there's three mirrors, three data mirrors, two physical mirrored servers. Okay, now they server that's the mirror is not always. It's not 99% of the time. It's just running backups. So it's running backups all day long. But if it was something that happened to this first server simultaneously, um, through the 10 gigabit, you know, connection, the other one picks up all the stuff, and then it's only going to run the backups every hour on the hour instead of doing it every 15 minutes because with that kind of load, it won't be able to do it. Yeah. No, I'm able to walk 3 miles a day. I'm able to take the dog to the park and stuff. I'm able to do a lot of things. I have no complaints. Believe me. I no veterans who not only have they lost their legs, not only lost one this one person, I won't tell you who he is. He lost his legs. He lost his he's just got a rubber hose. Got no balls. He's got no penis. He's got no left arm. He's got a right arm that's kind of mangled, and he's got no legs, and he's thankful every single day he's breathing. And he has a rubber hose essentially. So when I look at a person like that, I'm like, what am I complaining about? I have nothing to complain about. Okay, I'm extremely blessed. And I pray that God somehow reaches down overnight and restores everything because I know that God can do that. I have another friend who's a very good friend who's also a veteran, and he fought really in the Cold War, and he's got basically stage 4 cancer. They give him basically a year and a half to live and everything else. He's extremely bitter, and I can't reach him. You know, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep continue to try, but I always thought he would. And it's the choices somebody makes in their life. He spent a lot of time with my sons. He influenced my sons. The first time Bobby ever went up on a plane was his plane, and my son just flew it like he's been flying his whole life, and he never flew before. And Brad just couldn't believe it. I remember it was just like it was like the kid is was incredible. Yeah, yeah. So I knew then that the gift that was passed from my father to me, and then I was never well. I can't say I wasn't a good pilot. I was a very good pilot, but I wasn't I had to work at it. But um, I had talent. There's no question I had talent. It's the same thing with my boat. I mean, um, but Bobby, once he gets in an aircraft, he's like part of it. Now my father was the same way. You wouldn't know where my father ended and the plane It was amazing. It was, it was like he was controlling his hand or his leg or something. Um, yeah, yeah. So, and then the thing that Bobby has is that he really understands all systems on everything the Navy's got. So, and I mean, of course, he has the background in both electronics and physics, but also systems and engineering and everything else. So, and then he was light maintenance officer, right? Because you have two jobs on a carrier. His last deployment, he was light maintenance officer. So he really knows everything about these birds. I mean, inside and out. So, you know, Jim Foreman, no, that's not true. I defy anybody to hack any systems that I have set up. Um, but they can wear components of those systems out. Okay. They haven't gotten in, but they can cause failures and they can cause things to wear out, but they can't get in. It's a very complex way that I set things up. Extreme. It's not typical. It's not the same. And even when you get in there, you don't even know where the heck you are. And the things that you think are valuable actually are not. They're traps. I mean, the safe that I have in there, the digital safe, is not a digital safe. It's a safe to where that it's a safe place to open up viruses. So what's in there is like all kinds of viruses. and and sometimes when I'm mean, I allow these people to break in to that and take the safe. They take it and they crack it, and unfortunately, and it even says, "Don't take this. It's toxic. It's blah blah blah. It's confidential." Blah blah. When you put all those things on there, it just makes them want it more. I don't give it to them; they take it. Not my fault. They proceed to hack it because it's encrypted. It's basically an encrypted volume, and it's not an easy volume to hack. But I left it hackable, and so there's usually like a Delta Delta Victor variant in there. And if you're not familiar with that variant of virus, Delta Delta VB, it's not a CPU virus. It's an actual virus of devices. So it's written in all these devices have a specific protocol. So the virus actually communicates through the buses from one device processor to another. So, for example, um, a hard drive has a specific device driver, has a processor, and everything. Those are the things that actually it infects and runs on. Yeah, it takes systems and turns them into waffle irons. It's and it exponentially procreates, and it does it unbeknownst to themselves, and it masks itself in the data that's it's I've lost a lot of hardware to this thing. It was sent to me first. I used to be an OEM for Seagate, and they had a real problem. They sent it to me, and they told me, "Well, I don't know how you're going to look at this one." I went back to the basics, and I started. I hooked it up to my logical analyzer, and I was literally putting it on my scope and looking at what this thing was doing. It was amazing. I was like, whoever came up with this is an insane genius. I mean, I was like, wow, this is a whole little level. It was a level above my expertise. I mean, I was seeing stuff that it was basically they had a knowledge of hardware that was greater than myself, and they knew things that I didn't know that Seagate knew, but they didn't let it out because it was like top secret. So I assumed that I don't. I think it was from some um, chip designer that worked for them that was basically a disgruntled employee, and yeah, who is, like I said, maybe an IQ of 220. I mean, this thing is wow. Okay, I mean, like wow. Um, yeah, that's the beauty of it. It'll infect anything because it doesn't depend on the CPUs. It just depends on common hardware that's common with everything, including servers. Yeah, woof. Thank God there's a limiter in that equation where you can set um, specific times that this thing is going to replicate itself and then stop. But I can see it being a digital Armageddon if it ever gets out there the way I see it. Like I said, my mind's not really on that this type of technology. My mind is on non-silicon based technology. Yeah, my mind is on light. So what I've been working on, the photon processor. So it's going to be an entirely new. I mean, it's going to be as similar as a leap as was from tubes to IC semiconductors back. You know, if you compare a vacuum tube switch to, um, you know, a 6518 or something like that, or even for it would be no, really, yeah, it would be like a 68,000. A 68,000 8 megahertz Motorola processor compared to like Tube ENIAC or something like that. Including abilities and including efficiency and including power consumption. Because again, you're harnessing the math of light. So this is the engine of it is God created. It's physics. So you're the logic, the ability to carry a specific value in a register is not limited to your on or off value or not, on or off. No, it's a value of a specific frequency of color. It's a color. And it's still digital. I mean, you can have a three-color computer, four-color computer. It could be eight, 16, whatever, but they're all digital. They're all unique. And they're all each one, it's insanely. And then because there's no indices and you have essentially entanglements with teleportation, you're not limited in time, you're not limited in size, you're not limited in scope, you're not limited, period. Essentially, when you make the first node, you're connected to not only that node, but all the other nodes from now into the future. Um, yeah. That's what people don't seem to understand. I mean, they talk about the multiverse and all this stuff. There is no multiverse. Each slice of this meatloaf, and I'm going to use the analogy of meatloaf, and no, it's not a four-dimensional meatloaf. It's really 18 dimensions, but we're not going to talk that. The analogy works for a meatloaf, and a slice is it's 10 to 125th. Very small slices, okay? But there's literally nothing there. And it's a universe onto itself. It really is, okay? It has your in that one slice, you have your Jupiter, your Earth, your every person, everything. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and it's a lot of slices. Okay. It's not infinite, but it's pretty well darn close to it. But it's not infinite. Okay, it's a finite value, but the value is crazy. Um, each of those slices, okay, is real. It's a specific location, and there it is. Wild Willie, yes, but light actually has a force. So a radiometer is perfect thing of that. Photons has what's known as called a phantom mass because of their speed. and because of what they're doing. That's also a scientific fact. People don't actually know the actual speed of light. They calculate the speed of light to specific matter of things that they get close to. They don't get the exact thing, but it's different depending on what it is. The thing is that the vacuum points are all wrong. Okay. So even though you think that space is a vacuum, it's far from a vacuum. Um, at least the space that's in this solar system is full of crap, full of lots of stuff. Okay. And yeah, so there's gobs and gobs of energy everywhere. Okay. Tons. I mean, and then, then you talk about, you know, things of the order of fusion or fission, even fission. Fission is about 1.5 million times the amount of energy that's in a simple chemical hydrogen bond. Okay. So you have chemical energy that's basically an electron going and being shared. Then you have nuclear energy, which means you have actual matter that's being transformed into energy, which means a matter is being, yeah, that's 1 million times more power. Fusion is even more power. Why? Because there's more mass involved. So um, that's about 2 million times more. Okay, so that's a lot, um, a lot of energy. If we want to make it, we have to first really. Our only step is to nuclear energy. Now, the future. I mean, I can see being the ultimate thing would be an antimatter reactor. Right now, the only thing that can make antimatter are like, different colliders. But I think the cost technically per gram of antimatter would be like, I don't know, maybe over $1,000 trillion or something. Obviously, they don't make a gram of it, but that is 100%. So when you have antimatter, positron meet a proton, they, I mean, a positron electron meet, it's 100% annihilation, 100%. We have nothing that does that, okay, except that. So that's obviously where you want to go, okay? And that kind of power is like, I mean, that's greater than the sun power. That's but that's what you really want to get to. So I don't even know what kind of civilization that would be. Type 3? I don't know. It'd be pretty up there. But if you can harness that, wow, there's not much that you wouldn't be able to do in this reality. Okay, so I, I'm I'm happy with a molten salt reactor like a lifter of Kirk Sorensen's design. That'd be fine with me. I would be very happy with that. That would power us right now with the thorium that we have that we know about 5,000 years easy. Um, and it's ridiculously cheap, ridiculously cheap. So, is that going to happen? Nope. Well, not with this administrator, not with these strings. These strings are the same strings that canceled it back in 2012. 2012, it was made illegal by President Obama, and the technology was given to the Chinese and Westinghouse, and they now have a molten salt reactor running. So, I mean, everything's been set up to give them the IP on it when we did all the work and we did all the research. And it was Alan Weissman's idea. It goes back to 57 when the Air Force, maybe even earlier than that, maybe 54, when the Air Force wanted to have a nuclear bomber because they didn't have refueling. So, yeah, pretty ludicrous idea. But the reality is that the only way they could do it was to have something so slick, so different. Um, that's where the molten salt reactor came to being. And Weissman realized it was such a folly, crazy idea. But you also realize that the spin-offs of that type of technology can be used in generation of power, modular generation. Different from the areas that are covered by water. Um, you're talking about when the flip is, um, most of the land on the earth is low lying. So when the flip happens, it'll basically cause everything to be turned by 90 degrees. So you'll have a turn of 90 degrees and then a shoving to the south when that happens. So that coastal cities, the West Coast will be really bad because all that water will have inertia, right? Because the planet's rotating like this. So the water is liquid, so it's got inertia. It's gonna go right up to the Rockies. Okay, everything else is gonna be. Um, you're gonna have this tremendous force south here because it's gonna twist like this, and it's gonna create this sea coast to be pushed. The Atlantic is gonna be pushed on it. Okay, um, Europe is gonna suffer a really really bad fate too. And then then you're talking about Greenland will be on the equator. So you'll have the equator running through Greenland, running through the core of Africa coming up, and then, you know, yeah. So it's going to change everything. Yeah. Um, some areas will be basically in a climate, they'll basically be the same kind of climate, but they'll be in the southern hemisphere. Places like my place in Vermont, it'll be equivalent distance from the equator, but it'll be in the southern hemisphere. Yeah, and this is evidence that this happened. Okay, so in the past, um, yeah, the polar. What happens is that when the field, they say, when the field collapses, the continents that are drifting on this liquid, really, it's liquid. It's a fluid. They unmagnetically decouple. And I put on my Patreon site a video of and the directions just to keep it secret. It's called the wingnut phenomenon. It's named after this Russian guy. I don't know his name, but if you spin a wingnut in space, what happens is that it will go this way for a certain amount of revolutions, and then it'll flip around and go the other way, and then it'll do. A tennis racket will do the same thing. If you take a tennis racket and you hold it by the handle and you flip it longitudinally, it'll twist in the air and come back to be facing a different face of it will be facing you. Yeah, it's incredible, but the math of it actually works out. It's basically a conservation of angular momentum that does it. So the um the Earth is not like you think. It's not like it's round ball. It presents itself as a round ball, but massively, it's more like a dumbbell. Okay, if you look at the actual core to the outside and everything else, it's like a dumbbell. So because it's that, what happens is that it does this reorientation every X amount of times. I mean, basically million, 2 years, something like that. And it does this phenomenon. And it can happen in a day and a half, 2 days. Nobody really knows how long it happened, but the floods and everything else are epic, absolutely epic. Um, yeah, really bad. And then there's the drainage, right? Because then there's the slosh back. So that's going to be the first flood is going to be basically like a foot a minute. So it's not going to be as fast as you think. The slosh back on the other hand will be like a huge tsunami. I mean, a foot a minute is not too good either, but I'm just saying, you know. So will there be any signs of this? It'll be lots of signs. The aurora borealis will be visible everywhere before this happens. It'll be visible that way for probably months because it would mean that the magnetic field has broken down to a point to where that um, the solar wind particles will be interacting directly with the ionosphere. So, no, that's not true. Definitely not true. Um, um, afar, places that have access to caves, mountains. Yeah, I mean, you have to be at least 1,500 to 2,000 feet above the ocean. Yep, you definitely have to be that. You definitely have to be away from a population. Yeah, yeah, and that just and watch any movie and see what's going on now. Unfortunately, people are not good, and that's just unfortunate. The storm is not going to come by 2045. It's going to come faster than that. It's going to come within the next 5.5 years. Okay. Like I said in the beginning of the show, there was already a storm that blew off the back end of our sun that was thousands of times greater than the size of the sun. It was even estimated to be twice the size of the Carrington event. If it hit us, it would have been lights out, back to the Stone Age. Well, maybe not the Stone Age, but at least, the 1700s. I mean, you can't erase the knowledge that certain people are going to have, the ingenuity and everything else. There's also a lot of people that, prepared, but the elites who think that they're going to be safe in their bunkers, uh-uh, their stuff is not going to work. This thing is going to just irradiate through the planet like, yeah, and you're going to see 90, 95% of the population unfortunately die from starvation, mainly because they can't deal without having electrical power and machines to plant their crops. We get almost 100 to 1 out of an acre of land compared to third world, fourth world countries because of our mechanization. Magnetic, what's it? Goes magnetic at that temp. Um, the Earth is like a big dynamo. Okay, so the flow of the iron creates what's known as called a current. And that's basically with all stuff. So um, the flow of these atoms is what, and the rotation of the Earth and the rotation of that whole thing is basically an induced field. The induction is caused by the solar wind of the sun. No difference than how an induction motor works, really. So you could say that our magnetic field is first generated by the thorium and the uranium causing a fission reaction in our core and heating it. And then once you get what's known called a radiation effect of hot, really hot stuff that becomes lighter and wants to move upward. Okay, that flow and then the rotation causes the flow of those atoms. The going over the top of the field of the solar wind causes an induction and an inducement that's the opposite, and that causes enhances the magnetic field, becomes a dynamo essentially. Um, they don't know exactly why it breaks down, but I'm going to tell you what I think. My hypothesis on it is that when the subluxation of these tectonic plates goes down, that material is cold, and it's going to affect in the way that the the fluid of is going to move, because it's going to have to melt that plate and everything else. I think that you're going to find that anytime there was a major tectonic shift or something like that, that eons later, there was something. It could have been even an asteroid. It could be anything. Um, what's happening now because of the galactic um, wave that's hitting the planet is that the Earth is spinning. Is spinning faster, so it's speeding up, getting quicker, and it's caused by that same inducement. Um, so that's the reason why this uh, earthquakes, volcanism, that energy of the speeding up has to come out. It's going to come out in those things. It's going to exacerbate what's already been started, which is the the going towards the next ice age. It's happening. We're going to have it. So Europe's going to get colder. The weather's going to get more radical, and there's going to be more droughts because in the ice ages, we know from the ice cores there was tremendous amounts of drought. Altitude. It depends on what Jim. Depends on where you are. Um, you're not going to be where you think you're going to be. You're going to be. Remember, Greenland is going to be at the equator. Antarctica is going to be at the equator. Yeah, and the orientation. So everything's going to be different. So you might be in an area that's going to be unhospitable. Might be way too warm or way too cold. You don't know. Okay. You also know that everything's going to change tremendously because of that. It's going to happen. Now, is it going to happen tomorrow? I doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen for maybe 50, 60, maybe 125 years. I don't know. But it's going to happen. And what will happen before that will be the killer CME. The killer CME is going to happen within the next 5.5 years, if not sooner. It can happen tomorrow. I don't know. But our electrical grid is not hardened as President Trump wanted to do, tried to do, was opposed. Why would they oppose him? Something that was very, in respects, not expensive at all, 12, 13, 14 billion dollars. Why would they not want this? It would protect against EMPs, it would protect against CMEs, it would protect a lot. Why would you oppose this? You have to ask yourself, everybody who voted that down, who did not want it, what was their modus operandi? Why would they not want this? What was their reasoning? Then you have to say to yourself, are they really for me? Or really are they there for something else? So um so wherever you're gonna get to if it's a CME, you're gonna have time. You'll have time. You'll have about really conservatively 9 hours to get to the place. You're never going to be able to get anywhere again. You're never going to be able to travel again. So wherever you're going to get to, has got to be a place that's going to be fine after the flip. Because 30, 40, 50 years from now, the flip's going to happen. We see signs of it. Areas have already done it. Okay, the magnetic field over the South Atlantic has already done it, and you can read about. You can Google the South Atlantic anomaly. They've lost satellites to it. Japan lost a satellite to it. 500 million. They don't want to. They not even have that after after these events happen. They're gonna be lucky to have 500,000. Yeah, unfortunately, you know that's the way it is. Any other questions? Now do you realize that Trump and Putin are not in the same? They're not. This whole thing was not Trump's plan. This it's ludicrous to think that this was all. Trump was doing the lost the election and had all these things happen. To only way he can point that kind of thing out because right, Trump wants all these insanity to try to maintain their insanity of their lies, essentially that they screwed up. Yes, was there a chance that these things could have been done? Yes. Did were they? No, and I went over them at the time when they had to be done by, okay? Hillary did not go to prison. Anybody go to prison for the killing of Seth Rich? Are there injustices that are done? Are people being tormented about their tax records and everything else still? Okay? Still? The IRS has all the information. He's been under review for the past 15 years. Give me a break. It's one thing for somebody else, it's another for them. I'd like to see an audit of every single person that's been in Congress for the past 40 years. I'd like to see them get audited every 2 years, and I'd like it to be public, thank you very much. Will they ever do that? Why not? They're serving the public. Wouldn't you like to know how Nancy Pelosi got her money, where she went from $1.5 million net worth up to 145 million? I'd like to know this. I'd like to know how my representative, well, he wasn't in my district, but how he was able to afford working for this government a $12.5 million estate in the Dominican Republic. I'd love to know that. I'd love to. How did he do that? I need to learn this. I wanna learn how to do that. I mean, wouldn't you wanna learn how to do that? Yeah. Oh, Hunter Biden. How do you make that kind of money? You don't have knowledge of gas pipelines, you don't have really knowledge of the energy sector. I mean, you did go to Annapolis, but you didn't graduate high in your class. You barely graduated. I mean, so how do you do this? How do you make all these huge salaries? Wow, that's pretty incredible. I mean, write a book. We need to know this. Once you sign up for that book, I need to know how to do it. It's just like the Clinton Foundation, same thing. Before she was running tremendous amounts of then during the Trump years, wow, it didn't do anything. And it no what how does that happen? No, they'd beat it. It's beatable. But you can't beat a forensic accountant, believe me. Um, yeah, I don't know if you've ever been through an audit, but it's very, very it's you know what it's like? It's like a prostate examination, yeah. Except they don't use any lubricant. Yeah. So that's yeah. That's um well, Willie, yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to realize that Iran holds the tech, North Korea has the tech, Russia has the tech, China has the tech. Guess what? We don't have the tech. We never developed EMP weapons. The only EMP weapon we have is actual a tactical nuclear weapon, which just in its own detonation gives off an EMP. That's how it was discovered. Um, yeah, our nuclear technology is about 30 years behind the latest stuff. Um, and it's because of our wonderful government and the people in charge of it. Instead of actually looking at the real enemy and what's really going on, they put you into a war of 20 years, went through a tremendous amount of blood treasure for what? We spent $4.5 trillion and got our boys and girls very, very badly injured and are left with tremendous scars. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Well, she made friends with the right people. So you have to know, what did she do to do that. See, I don't think that. Well, Willie, less than that. You're looking at maybe 0.1%, if that, because of the specific areas. There's only going to be basically two safe areas. That's it. Okay, in this country, which will be again in the southern hemisphere when it's all done, said and done. Other places, you can forget Europe. Europe is trying to be positive. The thing is that if we got the holy grail of tech, we could probably stop all this, because with photon computers, you could really accurately predict real climate, real Earth, real everything models. And then you could come up with a true, real fusion react. You could come up with things that would give you the power to stop things. You could put out enough satellites at the Lagrange one spot to prevent a catastrophic CME from hitting us. Okay, satellites that would deploy like basically Mylar and Bella and a whole bunch of them, and that's a conductor. That's all you need. That conductor would be um, the magnetic field coming at it would be induced to give an opposite. I'm not telling you that it might not wipe all those satellites, 150,000 of them out. But if you build a robot platform up in space around the Earth that just spits these suckers out, which we could do, we have the technology to do it. Um, it's replaceable, and you would not you would not have the CME. You could protect against this, and that's a huge thing. Now, it's not going to open all the time. It's only going to open when it detects the CME. As far as a regular EMP, um, we can harden our electrical grid right now. It would probably take about 6 to 8 months to do it, to specifically harden the systems that would be affected. And then for computers, again, it would take about a year and a half to 2 years to build a factory to make the crystals that you would need for photon computers. It takes that long to get that room clean enough to grow the crystals. You have to have a room so clean it'd be maybe, I don't know, 250, 300,000 times cleaner than an OR. Really, really clean to where that you can't even have a person in there. So we're talking about filtered down to, I don't know, 0.0005 microns. Yeah. And yeah, but then once you start growing those crystals, then it's so, I mean, it's just a fraction of those crystals that would make a processor. So, and then it would be expensive, but then extremely cheap, just like silicon chips were. But it would change everything. You're talking about 1.5 million to 2 million times faster, and they'd all be connected through entanglements. A very so it would be any one of those technologies in the holy grail tech. Yeah, talking about photon computers, you're talking about fission and fusion energy, and you're talking about room temperature superconductivity. Those three things, the holy grail of tech, I call it, have a profound, profound change on society. It opens up insane, like Star Trek Next Generation, and then more than that. Um, technologies, and I believe that you'd end up with two classes, really two classes, but by choice, two classes of people. People like my sons, right? Uh, so you have people like these guys, right? Who are not going to sit on their butt. Okay, they're going to get, they're going to do stuff. They're going to exploit what God has made, and then you're going to have people who just don't want to do that. Fine, it's okay. They'll be able to sit back and watch on their three-dimensional whatever holographic display. Oh, that's neat. This guy's doing that and whatever. That's what you'll have. But you won't have war. But you don't need. War is out of need, which means war is for conquering, for tyrants. You won't have that. Everybody essentially be on an equal plane, and they'll be like, yeah, well, there's other things we need to fight besides us. There's things out there that we need to fight. Okay. Like near Earth objects. You have an asteroid that's possibly going to hit us next year, or sooner. Who knows? The fragments might come and be a city killer. You don't know. What have we done to know this? Nothing. Do we know it's going to come close? Yep. What makes these people think that they could just play roulette with us? Oh, they have their bunkers. They'll be safe. That's we get back to the bottom line. Google says they're going to move my immortal soul into a machine. It's going to take care of it. These people buy into this because they don't believe in God. They don't believe in the creator. They don't realize there's proof of the creator everywhere. You just have to look. And this is why they do things. This is why they're always afraid. This is why they use fear as their weapon. They use fear as their weapon because everybody's afraid to die. I'm not afraid to die, but do I tempt fate? Do I play on the Long Island Express? That's a big interstate highway. Do I play on big 18 wheels coming at me at 75 miles an hour? I'm gonna do an El Toro. No, of course not. I don't jump off of the an Empire State Building and say that God's gonna save me. No. Now, if for some reason that something befalls me and God does not want me to die, guess what? I'm not going to die. God will do whatever he has to do because he is in control. I'm not. Now you're going to say, why is God letting all this happen? God lets this happen because it's a trial, it's a test. How will all these children, all these people, like that train station got blown up? Train station got really blown up, folks. There was reporters there that saw it really happen, and it was done by Russian missiles. Russian missiles, not Ukrainian, Russian missiles. No ifs, ands, or buts. In order to have that missile do that, they have missiles. I believe me, those missiles can get accurate within 20 to 50 feet. There's no way that they did not do this on purpose. They sent two of them, not one, two. No, they knew what they were doing. They knew that this was an evacuation route. They knew exactly what they're doing. They're trying to break these people as much as they can. This is an old tactic. And if you go back to World War II, you see who employed that tactic. So much for Putin calling the Ukrainians and everybody in there so called the N word. The actual N word is the people who are operating underneath Putin's control. And I'm not saying that there are not N words in our government or in our place and everything else. I'm not saying that, but not everybody is that way. Not everybody working for the Delta Oscar Delta was the N word. Okay. And no, not the N word you think. No, there was many people like me. Was I being taken advantage of? Yes. But that doesn't matter. I still have to own it. Max. Yes, Maxie. Another ball, Max. You're watching Squirrel TV. I know you're in the kitchen watching Squirrel TV. This is what he does, folks. He goes in the kitchen and he watches the squirrels. They've wiped out everything. They've wiped out every single piece of food my wife put out for them. There's only the backbird feeder that they can't get to. It's a squirrel proof feeder that they can't get into. But everything is gone. It's amazing. Anyway, only 8 minutes left. We're coming up to Palm Sunday. This was the anniversary of the time that Jesus entered Jerusalem. Okay, and we can't get away from why Jesus went to Jerusalem. We can't get away from the fact that why Jesus purposely let himself be sacrificed for us. And then sacrificing himself that way, he cleansed us. He took upon our sin debt in full. So all you have to do is you just have to believe that he is the Son of God and he did this because God loves us that much. Right, Max? God loves me this much. He gave me this dog, created Max for me. You want another bone? I got another one. I got a part of one. Okay? He's a boner. I'll tell you, I'm on my Traeger the other day. I took a side of bacon. I made it with, I glazed it with maple and cracked pepper, and I cooked it with the signature select, which was let's see, it's hickory, maple, oak, and a little bit of cherry that's in there in this wood. This mix, it's a proprietary blend, that they charge. It's a gourmet signature select. It's incredible. Okay, they came out. Ugh, and we were roasting a chicken and stuff. So whenever I roast stuff, I always try to cook other things at the same time because I had this chicken in there, slow roast for it was at 350 degrees for about 3.5, 4 hours. It was a stuffed chicken. It came out magnificent. Okay, my stomach is making all kinds of noises just talking about it. And yeah, I love my Traeger. I'm gonna be doing some cooking videos on my other channel on my Traeger, but it's now my son being a ball, he does it the hard way. He puts his wood in the bucket and he's got the egg and he does this whole thing and he's gradually adjusting the vents and stuff, keeping a specific temperature. Well, he's young. He- he's 33. Me, I just take the cover off. I fill the hopper with the wood that I want, and then I just turn the dial to what I want, and I turn it on. That's it, and it does it. I want super smoke. I put on super smoke. If I want whatever temperature, it stays within 15 degrees of that temperature. That's great. Yep, that's my speed. I don't. I haven't. All last year I haven't fired my charbroil up once. I've been doing everything on my Traeger because you could just turn the dial, and everything comes out fantastic. From uh, and I also have a cast iron grill plate for it. We made grilled shrimp on it. It's incredible, incredible. And I'm not endorsed by Traeger, but I can tell you right now, fantastic product. Incredible. The wood, yeah, the wood's expensive, and you have to buy their wood because if you don't, they don't maintain their 5-year warranty on the thing. So I buy their pellets through Costco, and I get it at a specific discount, and they come in 50-pound bags. Um, but wow, it's very economical. Maybe it goes through a gallon to 2 gallons of pellets for about 5 hours. If you filled up pellets in the thing, it takes about a 5 gallon. It has like a 5 gallon hopper. So yeah, I mean, if you cook a brisket, it'll run a biscuit for like 12 and a half hours before you have to fill it again, which is pretty good. Well, yeah, well, the Antarctica is going to be on the equator, so it's going to be exposed in the future. It was on the equator last time. This whole thing, this 90 degrees rotation thing has happened time and time and time again. We've seen the evidence in the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon has the geological evidence. So there it is. They kept it classified. This Captain White who discovered all this stuff, he was classified in the 50s. It wasn't until his son actually published a book and his stuff. Same thing. His father told his son on his deathbed. So yeah. I mean, nobody sat me down, gave me an order that they gave my father an order. But yeah, that actually happened. If you look up the records, you'll see and then the Air Force was involved. The ground stations were. There's a lot of people who were involved with this. It's not like just a few dozen people. Okay, my father's squadron, which was on maneuvers, was told, "Get you off your butt and get over this thing right now." They didn't know what the heck it was. Okay, and my father was in an F-12. He was at V&E speeds. Okay, and that's velocity never exceed, and everything was rattling. He told me thing was ready to fly apart, and these things are just like, yeah, whatever. And basically, no difference in the tech compared to that to the commander who retired. I actually met him at Annapolis, by the way, the academy, and yeah, he had full HUD footage of the same exact things my father described to a T. They moved just like my father said. Boom, gone. And they went from one place to another at 150 miles in less than a second, and that they were at what, we don't have anything like this, folks. I can tell you that right now. Okay, we don't. Okay, don't. Oh, well, we developed it. No, we don't. We don't have anything like that. Okay. No. So, yeah, we've had spaceship, but that's like trying to reverse and think about going back to. I've done this before, but my time is running out here. Anyway, I want you guys to be good. I want you to have a nice weekend. Remember to take Jesus Christ into your heart. He died for your sins on the cross, was resurrected in 3 days, and he is our Lord and Savior and our King. Amen. And may Jesus be with you all.